Namaste, my dears. I'm happy to greet you on a wonderful Sunday morning. And I want to dive right into some interesting questions. And the question is um, I have a few questions. What do you think, Vadim, about the fast growing world population? Are we really too many, and why? Traffic is getting crazy everywhere, and so many people are traveling. So it seems almost impossible to find places where you can be alone. Also, in Switzerland, we have so many tourists everywhere. It's almost impossible to move normal because it's so crowded. And though social media, there are no secret or insider spots. I realized that even I started to think there were too many humans on this earth. Interested to hear your view on this topic. So, thank you for a very interesting question. And for myself, I started to study this topic, I think, almost 20 years ago. And when I jumped into this rabbit hole, it was very interesting to find out a lot of interesting facts, and that this concept that we're overpopulated is not a new concept. For the first time it came out, just think about it. It's not even 20th century. It's not even 19th century. It's the 18th century. So in 1798, there was living a person, Thomas Malthus. Thomas Robert Malthus, and he wrote an essay, and let me try to find it, the Essay of Principles of Population. So, and in this book, for the first time, something 200 years ago, he already shared his concerns that the population of the world is growing rapidly, that there is not enough of food to supply everyone, and that there will be wars, and that there will be problems, and that eventually we need to learn to control this. We need to create birth control. We need to control the population of the world. So this was an essay what he wrote 200 years ago. Then through this philosophy, it was taken in, let's say, by certain forces, and it started to be implemented and shared, especially between kings and rulers, telling them that we have to limit everyone because there's just too many people. So, and that created that first wave of philosophy of thinking that in the world there are too many people and that we should control them, shrink them. And eventually that even formed that in the 19th and 20th century was formed Malthuism. It's a philosophy exactly of decreasing the population of the world. And this concept, it was very much spread out in the 19th century. Then this agenda was pushed on to the 20th century. But if you look how many people were born in this time, you'll see that eventually spreading out this information didn't help. And now at the 21st century, we can see that certain players and big people who are controlling pharma or they're working in IT sector. Yeah, you see the windows behind me. We say that we have too many people and we should definitely shrink that amount. Maybe we should poison them. Maybe we should do something with them. Maybe we should control how many people are being born. So what we can see is that certain people have given themselves the roles of God. They think that they're wiser than God and that they know exactly how many people should live on our planet. And practically, I can tell you that I find this just disgusting and absolutely non-scientific because it shares, if you study the paper and you look through the things that they pointed out, then we currently, with all of our development of technologies, we can easily feed up even 20 billion people if we need to. We have more than enough of land, we have more than enough of space. People are being gathered like cattle in a very small places as big cities, when in truth we have a lot of land and we can use it for allowing people to live. So the more land you give to the people, the harder it is to control them. So in a more smaller place they live, the more we can have the grip on their lives, on their mindset, on their behavior, on their flow of resources, and everything. So for that reason, generally the governments and the rulers, they never wanted to give a lot of land, and they wanted to give the people the feeling as if they're parasites. This concept was also very spread out between a specific religion, which tries to dominate upon other cultural religions, comparing people, as I told you, with parasites or viruses. This we can even see in the philosophy of the Matrix, where they try to give us the thought as if we're something bad and we don't belong to this planet. When in truth, our planet, it's very wise. It is far more wiser than humans can imagine. And the planet has its own beautiful balance and algorithms of the development of any life form based on it. So there is a very interesting research center. It's called MindGap, and you can Google it, or even you can go on YouTube, which comes from Sweden, and they don't get financial support from those corporations which have the interest of proving the world that there are too many people living. But they are literally just studying the statistics about how we develop, how we live, and how everything in life is actually in a wonderful balance. So I'll share with you some interesting facts. Through the statistics that they have studied through, it turned out to be that we as a species subconsciously are keeping the perfect balance. What does it mean? That the amount of children that are being born, they're interconnected with the average death age of a nation. So let's say we're a developing country, let's say in some part of Africa or in some part of Asia, and let's say the average age of our population is around 40-45 years, and then a person dies. Then in such places, we can see that the amount of children that are being born in the family can be an average of 10 to 12. When an average death rate age of the population rises, let's say 55 years or 60 years, then this amount from the 10 and 12 children, it goes down up to the amount of 6 to 8 children. And if we'll go above 65 years to 70 years, then it decreases, for example, to 4 children, 3 children. When we go above 70 or 75 years, then we get already that the population or the amount of children that in this specific country and culture are being born, it's about 2 children per family. So which gives us a very interesting picture that when we are developing and we need, let's say we're using a lot of manpower, then there are more children born, but the more developed we are, the longer we live, then automatically less children we produce. What does it mean? That, for example, Europe or US, or right now it's already China and India. So, for example, US and Europe were the first ones which came to this high status of development that eventually the population of Europe and US grew the fastest, especially in the 19th and 20th century. Then now once we have reached a high level of development and the death age of the population became high, the amount of children being born there decreased. While, for example, in China and India, in the middle of the 20th century, they still had a very high birth rate because their death rate was very small. Now it has increased. So in India and China, in truth, in China, might even study, and many less people know that they have actually a problem with giving birth to children, and they have through the propaganda that they were doing exactly of this philosophy, they eventually have now a problem that people don't want to have babies, and that eventually They're being motivated now to give more birth, but women and people don't want to do it. So now we can see that the world has came to a moment that we have about 8 billion people, and this 8 billion people, the majority of them are being based in those places where the economies have developed themselves. So now we have some parts of Asia, some parts of Africa, partly some parts of South America, which in the 21st century will have more children up to that point once they also reach the age, an average death rate around 75 or 70 years old. And the amount of children that will be giving birth, it will also decrease to about 2 children per family. So what does it tell us? It tells us that we, as a species, and our planet, it's super wise. It keeps the balance in a natural way, and we're part, subconsciously, are acting in that specific way in supporting this balance. The total amount of people that will be living on our planet, it will be eventually around 13 billion people. Once we reach 12 and 13 billion, it won't go up. It will stay in that sequence by the studies that we have made. In other words, what is super effective for us to do is just to develop already now the concept and the understanding that we have to take care about 12 and 13 billion people. It's not a lot. It's an illusion if somebody tells you that it's a lot. You can study yourself through the internet and trying to discover how much land do we actually have available. We have technologies to construct houses anywhere. We have learned to live in any climate. And we have a lot of beautiful places where we can build cities and build homes. The only thing what is needed is the focus upon it. So now we're actually going through an interesting change that people through big cities are now more moving out, and people focus more and more to live on the countryside, the ones who have money, or the ones that want peace, the ones that want to be more self-efficient and not dependent on the policy of the government, corporations, and our other powers which seek to control the human population. So I hope that this answers the question. We are right now are not facing any crisis that we have too many people. The only problem that we have are corporations and specific powers, shadow powers, who don't have the interest in the development of our planet, but seek more to control their own resources and to protect the interests of themselves, their families, their organizations, their corporations. So that's why anytime when you hear something on the news or from rich guys explaining that we have too many people and that there's a problem with it, no, that's a lie and propaganda. Our main problems are exactly their productions connected with plastic, connected with pharmaceuticals, connected with specific resources, wars, military, and other things. This is the cancer that we actually have inside of our human culture. And also, I want to underline that it's not even the cancer of its, but it's a part of also our human development in learning to find the right philosophy and balance and self-healing. Because when somebody is sharing such things with a desire to destroy someone, it usually lies in specific pain that specific person, group, or let's say institution or culture are keeping inside. And this can be healed. Once it is being healed, we can all live peacefully and in harmony. Of course, now we have a lot more opportunities to travel, and that's why it's harder maybe to find some peaceful places in the world. But in truth, there are so many wonderful, awesome places in the world. We just have to travel more. And at the same time, if your city and your country has something old and beautiful, and if you're showing it a lot on Instagram and to people, and of course it will inspire others to come for a visit. Traveling, I think it's a wonderful thing, and we shouldn't limit ourselves with the understanding that I'm only part of one culture. We're first of all humans, then comes our name, then comes our culture, and the moment you start to travel, you start to see that actually all of this, it's a part of us. As all planet, it belongs to us, as humans, as the human race. And it is also very interesting to underline that up to the 19th century, we didn't have such a topic as we have today called nations. It's quite also a new concept, including also government. It is interesting to say that up to the 20th century, people had a lot more freedom. They never wanted to allow any group of people, like government, to have control over their families, over their children, over their education, over their what they can grow, how much they can grow, and etc. etc. But now we already have I would say maybe 4 or 5 generations of people who rely on the government and think that it's absolutely normal that a group or institution can have more power and authority over the life of people and children and their education rather than the parents. This is quite absurd, if you ask me, as eventually the highest authority inside of the family should be the family itself, and not a person who is paid by some organization, corporation, or government to share specific agenda, to formulate their specific mindset with values which are not connected with the protection of themselves and family. Try to imagine how sick is the path of the mindset of people who think that the problem of this planet are the humans itself. It's not humans, it's a very small group of people which already have power and try to keep it and try to push this agenda upon the normal people to carry responsibility for those actions what they have created. So I highly inspire you to dive deeper to the topic about population and check out Mind Gap. They have truly very interesting studies all around the world, which are accessible, which are explained in very simple graphics and sheets that you can check out for yourself. And maybe a wrap up, if to speak about tourism, well, let's travel. Let's remember that people travel not the whole time, and if you want to create more peacefulness for yourself, and when it really becomes overwhelming, there can be created specific periods and time for tourism to happen to those areas. I grew up in a beautiful city called Tallinn, Old City, which is the old city is over 1,000 years old, and it's about 450 meters long and 720 meters wide. And inside of this small old city, we have during the summertime sometimes over 10,000 people visiting on a daily basis, coming from cruise ships. Is it easy? No, but it doesn't happen the whole year, and at the same time, people get a beautiful opportunity to study something deep, something old. And from my experience of working in tourism for over 10 years, I think we're wise enough to create a balance where everybody will be happy. Of course, we need to listen to our local population and all people living in cities, that they will feel comfortable with the visitors. But this is a different question. I hope I have answered on the topic about overpopulation, that the maximum that we will get in the studies that have been done, that in the world will have about 12 to 13 billion people, and then it won't go up, it will stay the same. So let's focus on this number, and let's create such a world where 13 billion people can fit happily, easily, having enough food, having beautiful place to live with great education and opportunities to travel and to discover our planet. Namaste.